Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Eric and I like to read, and today I'm going to be doing my worst and most disappointing books of 2020. So, overall, I actually had a pretty good reading year. Most of my books rated 3 stars or higher, which was awesome because I'm glad that I had a good reading year and I didn't have too many books that weren't great. But I already started off 2021 with a pretty bad book, which you guys will hear about in my January wrap up. But, anyways, we're going to talk about the books from 2020. So, I have compiled a list here of 8 books. I couldn't even get to 10 because I couldn't find that many that really disappointed me or I just thought were really bad. So, I only have 8 books here for you guys, and we might as well just jump right into it. So, I'm just going to jump right into it with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This book was just not for me. I believe it is a decent book, but personally, with my reading tastes, I just did not enjoy it. I will say that this book was very beautifully written. I will give her that, but overall, there was really no plot to it. And I think that's what was like hurting for me because I'm a very plot driven reader, and this was a very, very character driven book. You got to learn a lot about the characters, and you got so much of their history and so much of like just who they are as a person, but there was nothing like carrying the plot forward. And so that's what really bugged me about this book. It also had like very historical fiction vibes, which I'm not a big fan of historical fiction to begin with, but I was interested to read this book because of the whole like curse aspect and how she's immortal and how she like deals with that and stuff. But I don't know, like the book just really did not pique my interest at any time really. Maybe the last 50 pages got a little bit more interesting, but like I ended up rating this like a 2.5 because I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't do it. And so, yeah, I'm very interested to try more of V.E. Schwab's books because this was the first one of hers that I've actually picked up. And I heard that her other books are all on different topics and like they're definitely different from this. So I think I will enjoy them more, and I'm excited to try out more of her stuff. Then next up, we had Other Life, and this was the final book in the Otherworld trilogy. Now, this one's on my list because it really ended up disappointing me. It feels like it wrapped up everything so quickly, and you didn't really get much more of like a solid resolution to the series. I really liked the first book, and then I really liked the second book, and then this one just it felt like they kind of just scrambled to put it together to have a finale for this series. For anybody that doesn't know, this series is very similar to Ready Player One, where it's like a main character going into this virtual world, and then that virtual world kind of carries over into real life, and things are happening in real life. And also this virtual world where this person kind of has to like fight back against this corporation to save other lives and things like that. So it's very similar vibes to Ready Player One, and I was really excited about that initially when I started reading the series, and I did really like the first two. But honestly, like this, it was just such a letdown for the finale. I don't know much else I can say about this other than like I'm just disappointed. I wish it went in so many other directions, and there were so many other things that they could have done to make this way better than it was. So yeah, I don't know. I think my bubble was just burst here, and I just lost my love for this trilogy. I still think that the first one is good, but like I don't think you need to read further than that. Then we have this book, which is called Surviving Your 20s Transformation. And I thought that this book was going to be very interesting because I'm personally in my 20s. So I thought that this book would give me some insight into kind of like figuring out where to go in your 20s and just like figure out what you want out of life and things like that. And the book on the back of it kind of gave you that idea that that's what you were going to get from it. But then when I started reading it, it just had a lot to do with you as like a soul, and it got into like a lot of religious territory, and there were multiple chapters on prayer and how prayer will help you figure out your 20s, and it just like it really did not line up with what I was thinking the book was going to be, and I did not like it. I had a really hard time finishing it. I did finish it because I wanted to give it like its due. I wanted to make sure that I went the full way through and didn't miss out on anything where they actually did dive into how to figure out what to do in your 20s. This book kind of tells you how to do or live your life a certain way, and it does draw from the religious parts of it, but like I think it's okay that you don't know what you're doing in your 20s. Your 20s are all about figuring out who you are and figuring out what you want to do. And I think it's okay to just like be okay not knowing what you're doing. Like, not everybody has to have a plan or has to have an end goal. You can just live and be who you are and figure it out as you go. It's all part of the journey. I think it's important to enjoy the journey. And so, yeah, this book just didn't line up with me, and I just didn't like it. Then we have a book called Elephant, and this book was kind of portrayed as a kid. He has like some trauma from the past, and then he has a really good close knit group of friends with him. But then some sort of trauma happens in like the present that puts him in the hospital, and then his friends are trying to be close to him and try and like help him out because he's injured and he's like going through a lot of stuff. And I don't know, the book went in a whole like weird direction, or it just might be the way that it was written that like it didn't really make sense. The whole thing kind of didn't flow well together. Like it didn't feel like it had a solid flow to the book at all. And I'm pretty sure that's what I said when I wrapped it up, where I ended up giving it like a 2 star because I had a hard time piecing together all the different things that were happening in the book and how it was just going. Like the plot didn't seem to be existent. And I think at the end it set it up for another book, but I was like, where did they even draw these things to set it up for another book? Like, I don't get it. This book was really, really all over the place. And I don't think that it was really done that well. And so that's why this book ended up on this list. Then we have a book called Social Misfits, and this one was kind of supposed to be like a high school drama book, which I was excited for because, as many of you know, I really enjoyed the High School Queens trilogy by Zachary Bryan. And so I was going into this book kind of with like the expectations that it was going to be similar to that. However, I got into the book and quickly realized that it was nothing like that. The main character is super unlikable. Like I did not like her at all. I kind of detested the main character. And it was lining it up so that you figured that the main character would kind of learn from their mistakes of being like an awful person and kind of like have a redemption arc or something like that, but they never really learned from their mistakes or did anything to fix the way they were behaving, which really like frustrated me because I'm like, okay, so we're just writing this book about this character that doesn't learn anything throughout the entire book and then just keeps going. Also, the book is called Social Misfits, and many times they use the R word, which I am not a big fan of. Like, I don't like that word being used at all. And they used it in the sense of like calling somebody a social insert bad word when they really could have just used the title of the book, A Social Misfit, but instead they did it that way. Like, it just really didn't make sense to me. And like, I had red flags when reading that because the use of that word was not necessary. It showed no growth whatsoever with its characters. And so, yeah, I couldn't get on board with this book. Next up, we have Fire by Kristen Kishore. And this is on this list because it's more of a disappointing book. Now, I went into this book expecting it to be better than Graceling and just like have more intensity to it. And I think this is rounding back to the fact that this is a very character driven book. You spend a lot of time learning about the main character of this book and everything that she's going through and all of her history and her past and what she hopes for in her future. Whereas there's not really any plot happening around it. Like, there is, but the plot drags along so slowly. And then when it gets to a part where there's actually going to be some sort of action or resolution, it's done like that. It's so quick and you don't get really any like excitement. You get all this build up and then a very quick resolution and then a little bit of an ending, and that's it. And it's so frustrating because I said the same thing about Graceling, and I was really hoping that when I went into this book it would be something different, but it was pretty much the exact same thing. And that is where I've realized that I don't know if Kristen Kishore is just the author for me, because her books kind of seem to have the exact same structure. But I know that I'm probably still going to read Bitter Blue because I'm a completionist and I'm going to like want to finish it. I feel like I'm probably going to have a similar rating to Bitter Blue, and my friend Amanda already told me that she doesn't think I'm going to like it. So that's not making me very hopeful, but yeah, I don't know. I was just hoping for a lot more of a badass character in this book. And like, she was okay. Personally, I think the character from Graceling was more badass than this one. But yeah, I don't know. It just was more disappointing to me. Then I have Blood Foam, and this just made it on here because it's a crime thriller, and I kind of pumped it up because I was in like a thriller phase when reading this book, and I was like really excited because I had read some good thrillers right before it. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be an awesome book, like a crime thriller. I can get on board with this, and I was just bored. I was really bored throughout the whole book, and everything was very like predictable. There was nothing really surprising about this book whatsoever. I mean, I did end up buying this book off the discount rack for like $2. So that could be why it was there, because not many other people like it either. But yeah, it just didn't do it for me, and I was just bored. And then the last book that was on this list was Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Now, I did a buddy read for this book, and both of us were kind of underwhelmed with it. It just didn't live up to what I had heard about it on BookTube. I had heard so many other people say that they absolutely loved this book. And then I went into it and I was just kind of bored. And I found it wasn't that I was bored, but like I was hoping for a creep out factor. And there were some like little parts that creeped me out. But overall, the book was not scary or overall creepy at all. And so that just kind of brought it down for me. And I also found that it was a little bit predictable, like the ending. Like I wasn't very surprised when you got to the twist of the book. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just like when a book at the end has something that is like a wow factor. And this book just didn't have any wow factor whatsoever. So it just wasn't a great book for me. Now, that being said, I would be open to trying more Ruth Ware books because I did really like her writing style. I thought that was really well done. And I think that maybe one of her other books would be more like pulling me in than this one was. I don't know. I just think the premise of this book didn't do it for me, but I am definitely interested to see what else she has to offer because I would like to read her writing style again. And that's it for my video, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what your worst books of 2020 were, or if you liked any of these books, let me know because I'm always excited to see differing opinions on the books that I've read as well. I think that these lists are always really good. Like I like seeing the worst and best lists from everybody because it's kind of funny. When I see worst lists, I am sometimes more intrigued to read those books because I want to see how my opinion differs with the person that thought it was so bad. So sometimes those lists actually inspire me to buy those books, which is really exciting. And it's like a cool aspect of BookTube. I think it's great that we all do these things. So yeah. Anyways, if you want to support me, I have a Patreon and a Ko-fi page, which I'll put in the description down below, as well as a link to buy my bookmarks. You know the drill. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button so you get notified when I post new videos. I post my videos on Mondays and Thursdays. And until next time, keep on reading.